Tonight, we have the distinct honor of paying tribute to a combat hero of this generation from Western Pennsylvania. Sergeant Ryan H. Lane, this year's recipient of the Chairman's Posthumous Award for Individual Bravery and Sacrifice.
Ryan was very adventurous. He had an imagination that you would not believe. He was into sports, loved baseball, loved wrestling, very good. He excelled at whatever he did. His three half-brothers were all very athletic in baseball and wrestling especially, and he just wanted to follow in their footsteps, and he did. Ryan would befriend just about anybody. If there was someone who tended to be the underdog, Ryan sided with that person.
He had never looked at the person that was the outcast and continued to push them further. He brought them in close to him, whether they were disabled or they were just one of the guys or girls that no one else paid attention to. He was always very caring.
Ryan loved life. You know, whatever he could do. He loved to be outside, he loved to fish, he loved to hunt. And that carried on through his life. He was always in the camos, and growing up, always in the camo. I mean, it was like a uniform for him. He couldn't take it. That between that and his Ghostbusters uniform. I mean, he could never get them off of him. I mean, it's like, Ryan, really, I do need to wash it today. We were pretty certain when he joined the Keystone Young Marines, and he was in head over heels in it. He loved it. And I think that's where it all clicked for him, that I think he thrived on the regimen and the discipline. So I think we saw what path he was going to take at that time.
He had mentioned one day at supper that he would like me to go down and meet his recruiter. Ryan, prior to that, had really never talked much about military like any young high school senior. He was in question as to what he was going to do next. And of course, I said I would.
As an adult, when he first said, "Mom, I signed up for the Marines," my first question to him was, why? And his reply was, I needed it. And I left it at that. I remember my first letter I received from him from boot camp, the very first mail that they're allowed to send out. And the first lines in his letter were, "Dear Mom, I hate this place, but I know I needed it." And I was very proud of him for realizing what he needed.
Ryan looked at the Marine Corps as something that was going to become a career for him. I think he liked the Marine Corps mostly because it was more physical and a wide variety of doing things. He knew that when he first went in, he'd be involved in infantry, but he saw the opportunity to go further. And his ambition was to eventually become recon.
His first deployment, you know, I don't think we were frightened for him. I don't know why. We were inexperienced as a military family too, you know, at that time, in his first deployment. So I figured, oh, you know what, we always felt that he was very well trained. He knew what he was doing. And, you know, he'd take care of himself, which the first deployment went very, very well. He
actually liked Afghanistan to the point that he thought he was doing some good because he really treasured the children. He really thought that the children were of value and spent a lot of time with them when he had a chance. Returned home, and when he returned home, he was sent to Parris Island again and became a weapons instructor. And he taught recruits marksmanship and so forth. Which
he loved at first, but it was not out in the field for him. He was kind of getting restless. You know, they wanted him to stay on because he was doing so well as an instructor down there, and everybody respected him, and he did a very good job. He wanted back in the fleet. As he told me, "Mom, I didn't join to sit on the bench." And so from there, he put in for a transfer to Camp Lejeune.
At Camp Lejeune, he was put in 2nd LAR Light Armor Reconnaissance, teamed up with his gunny sergeant, and with their CO, he afforded them the privilege of handpicking their own unit for their vehicle, and they did. And from there, they trained hard and heavy, and Ryan really ate it up. He wanted his guys to really just be crisp and be responsible so he could bring them back. The beginning of Ryan's second deployment was a deployment that he was concerned about. He didn't tell me that he was scared, he just told me that this wasn't going to be a good one in regards to they were going into an area where they hadn't seen Marines or military from the United States in a long time into some of the places they were going.
He did not have to deploy. He was offered a promotion to staff sergeant, which he turned down. He wanted to deploy with the men he trained. And that says a lot. That says a lot. I mean, that's a very respectable move. I got a text from him. The last text I received from him, he was getting on the bus going to the airport. He said, "Mom, thank all the family and my friends for all their love and support. I'll talk to you soon." Well, we never heard from him, after that.
Our understanding is that they had stopped to stay over at the castle, and a castle that they had taken over, and they were going to set up base there. They were set up base, and one morning Ryan and his men had just been getting ready to gear up, and at that time mortar barrage came in. Our understanding is when Ryan and his men were near the wall of the castle, he got everybody back. Everybody was on their way back. He was the last one, and at least one mortar come down and hit the wall of the castle where Ryan was close. And we understand that Ryan never knew what hit him. When I was notified of Ryan's death, I was working in the county, and I was called into the office, which is very unusual, but I returned to the office, and when I was standing at the reception area, that local police department had walked up to me with 3 or 4 Marines. I thought something happened, but even at that time, I didn't think death. And we walked into the office, and they formally told me, as they usually have the statement, that he had been killed by artillery fire.
I was in the hospital at the time. I had just come back from surgery. They wheeled me back from the recovery room, and I wake up and there's Marines standing there. And I just kept saying, "No, no." I said, "I don't want to hear it." And I guess that's every parent's response is, "I don't want to hear what you're telling me." And that's it. And it took a while to sink in.
We knew that his wife Valerie was in Pittsburgh, and they said they tried to contact Valerie and could not find her. And I said I didn't know her address, but I could take you to see her. I pulled up in my company car. She knew that I was followed by the Marines. They start getting out of their car, and she'd been crying. And she just asked how bad he was. And I said that he was gone.
After Ryan, we were notified of the outpouring from friends, family, military was just out of this world.
Being involved in law enforcement, there had been hundreds of law enforcement officers that came to the viewing from all over the state. The Patriot Guard was there at all times.
There were over 1,000 people at the funeral home. His funeral procession was over 4.5 miles long. It was just such a beautiful tribute to Ryan. I can't be angry. I cannot be angry because this is what Ryan chose to do with his life. And Ryan would have had it no other way.
It is with humility and deep respect tonight that we honor Sergeant Ryan H. Lane posthumously with the 2011 Chairman's Award. Please welcome to the stage Ryan's mother, Ms. Kathy Hanley, and his father, Mr. Harold Lane.
Thank you very much. It's kind of hard to respond from that, but Valerie, Ryan's wife, would like to extend her apologies for not attending. She is committed to a daycare position she has on base at Camp Lejeune, and she was unable to make it, but again gives her apologies. Kathy and I would like to introduce you a bit to Ryan. Thank you for your honor and recognition of our son, Ryan H. Lane, who was a Sergeant United States Marine Corps. Our thanks come from Ryan's parents, entire family, and friends. Ryan, as a boy, grew up with the freedom to enjoy life and have the opportunity to choose what his future would be. Ryan enjoyed life, and whatever environment he was in, he would bring humor. Ryan was always very proud of his very large family and grew with the paradigms of loyalty, devotion, and hard work. He loved and always talked about each member of his family and enjoyed family gatherings. The nephew Ryan never knew carries his name as Colby Ryan Lane. Ryan's mother and her husband Jim will miss the telephone calls and always asking for a recipe. His brothers and his stepsister will miss the late night texting, and my wife Dawn and I will miss the late telephone calls at all hours of the night at times just to have a conversation or to ask a question. We learned that Ryan was someone that was driven to reach the goals that he set for himself. He would always have a way of landing on his feet. Ryan knew that he wanted to be a Marine, and he loved his Marines. Recruit Ryan Lane went from Parris Island to 2 tours in Afghanistan, 3 meritorious promotions, one of which he refused so he could remain with his Marines to lead them as a sergeant returning to Afghanistan. Ryan knew this was going to be a dangerous deployment, but was confident in his men, in his Marines, and in what he was going to do. He read up on Russian and Taliban tactics for about 8 months in the local dialect and prepared his Marines for a battle. Between Parris Island and Afghanistan, Ryan experienced tons of training. Within that training, he experienced training as a coxswain in an amphibious assault unit, deployed on the 31st MEU, trained with military in other countries, weapons instructor at Parris Island, and requested and was transferred to the 2nd Light Armored Reconnaissance Unit at Camp Lejeune. After training prior to leaving for Afghanistan, Ryan's unit won the Secretary of Defense Challenge Coin. He became a true leader and knew how to gain the trust and loyalty of his unit. He wanted to be up front first and involved in whatever danger came along to protect or educate his Marines. Ryan's gunny would say, he always knew what I was going to say, and he always had it done. One of his new lieutenants said that Ryan introduced him to how the unit operated in Afghanistan and actually helped him to survive. Ryan's awards are the Purple Heart, Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal with a V, Good Conduct Medal with a star, National Defense Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal with a star, Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, NATO ISAF Medal, Combat Action Ribbon, Navy Unit Commendation, Navy Sea Service Deployment Ribbon with 2 stars. I mentioned those because Valerie said he would be at his computer every night to make sure that everything was all in line as to his training and his awards. His loyalty to his family and friends goes without placing a value on. His family lived in his heart. He carried his friends on his hip, and his Marines were his second family. Ryan and his wife Valerie, with their love and determination, living a career, were ready to settle in for even another reenlistment. Valerie was his love, and he always liked the role of coming home to her and having his best friend right beside him. Valerie showed her strength and love by standing by Ryan, as many do, as a Marine wife. Ryan is an example of our courageous men and women previously and presently fighting for our freedom. Our brave military is the security and freedom, and you have proven it. Our hearts go out to the families that have experienced the ultimate sacrifice. Everyone supports us, and we appreciate it. The loss of Ryan has placed a void in our hearts. Bad news comes in unexpected ways. Kathy, Ryan's mother, was notified while she was in the hospital. Valerie was notified while visiting her mother, preparing for a friend's wedding in the middle of the street. My wife Dawn and Kathy's husband Jim by telephone, and me at work by Marines. My thanks go out to our military. Your experiences and lifelong military memories we know go on. But remember, you have kept us free. We support you. You secure America. In closing, we are grateful to the VLP and the thousands of people, to include our military, public safety, and Patriot Guard, that stood by and supported our families with respect, honor for Ryan, and gratitude of his service. I think I give this from our family. Enjoy each moment you have with the ones around you. We are, until we too pass away, haunted by the fatal numbers, because they are our friends, mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, sons, and daughters. There are no noble wars. America has noble warriors. Thank you very much, and God bless America.